Thanks for everybody for coming in. I appreciate that. So a few weeks back, we went through home evals and for residential properties. So today we're going to go over how to evaluate an investment property. Obviously, it's very difficult here in Montreal to find something that's cash flowing, but that's a spoiler alert. We're going to get into it. We're going to jump right in. Okay, so the method that I've used throughout my time, because I find it very easy to understand and also very easy to explain to other investors, is the cap rate method. So basically it's net over purchase price. Okay, so it's net over purchase price. Now, the thing that's very, very important is I'm going to put a little asterisk here next to net. Why did I do that? The main reason is because when you're calculating net, what you do not calculate is your mortgage payments. What you do calculate is expenses. So, like hydro, if the owner is paying hydro for, let's say, the common areas, like the hallways and stuff like that, if it's done in that way. Water, if the owner is paying the water. Insurance, if the owner is paying insurance, which of course he has to be able to buy in Quebec, so he's paying insurance. And then, so hydro, water, insurance. What else am I missing? Snow removal, right? What else?
The things that don't come into net, right?
They do come into net. All of this stuff is very important to calculate for net, and we'll get into that in a second. Am I forgetting anything? Yeah, and then there's other things that you can do. And I'm going to use some jargon here that I use specifically, and it may not apply to other investors. But there's a difference for me between what I call a clean cap rate and an all-in kind of cap rate. An all-in cap rate will encompass also vacancy and maintenance.
Some people put CapEx too for like appliances.
Oh yeah, if they're including the appliances to be able to replace them and stuff? Yeah. So that I would probably put that with maintenance somehow. There's a lot of stuff to take into account when you're doing your due diligence on maintenance, because you have to extrapolate, okay, how much is a roof going to cost, how many years left in the roof, et cetera, right? But most of the time when I'm just quickly analyzing a deal of whether I'm going to pull the trigger on it, I'm looking at, okay, what's the gross income from all the rents? Is that the top I can get? Or is there a way I can increase those things? Sometimes you're looking at a potential of a property, and other times you're looking at, okay, it's already maxed out. If it's already maxed out, you take off all the expenses, you get your net on an annual basis, and you put that over your purchase price, and then that'll give you a percentage. And that percentage is your cap rate. So here in Montreal, it's a very sad state of affairs. If you have anywhere near between 5 and 6% capitalization rate, it's going to get snapped up by investors. The bad thing is when you're looking at a 5 to 6% cap rate, it's not a cash flowing investment. And so this is another really great way that I like to explain to investors, is that when you're talking about real estate, one of the things that I love so much is that you don't have to sell the asset to pull the money from that asset. So example, you bought Apple, AAPL. You bought that stock, okay? You bought it at $100, okay? It's now trading at, I think, $165 today, okay? Okay, so you made 65% on top of your money here, right? So let's say you put $100,000 into it, okay? It's now worth $165,000, right? How do you realize your $65,000 gain? You have to sell it. You have to liquidate the whole thing to be able to take your gains. You could, in theory, sell just 65 and leave your 100 in or whatever. There are certain ways that you can do it, but at the end of the day, you have to sell something that you own to be able to get that money. The really cool thing about real estate is that you bought a property, you bought an investment property for, let's say, $800,000, okay? This is where it gets really, really cool. What's the down payment for that? It's a triplex, right? And maybe you told the bank you were going to live there. Maybe. What's the down payment?
Everybody 5%?
Yeah, 10 usually for a triplex. Yeah, you got to put 10 for a triplex.
So 80,000.
So 80K. So you're only in. You bought something for $800,000, but you're only in it for 80K. Your tenants are paying the mortgage, right? Maybe you'll be out of pocket a little bit every single month, but that's not going to be a huge deal as long as you put your $80,000 in it, right? So you put your 10% down, you're probably going to be out of pocket every month for a little while, but in 5 years, you're going to get some kind of appreciation, right? But the beautiful thing is the appreciation is not based on the money that you put in. The appreciation is based on the total value of the asset. So let's say in 5 years from now, okay, the average, what would the principal pay down be per year on this? It would probably be like 16,000, maybe 15,000 per year, right? So you're looking at $75,000 that's been paid down in principal, not by you. The majority of that's been paid down by the tenants. So you got 75K paid down, okay? And then also it's gone up. Now I'm not going to use the most recent statistics to tell you how much it's gone up because I feel like that's super unfair. But let's just say it's gone up. What do you guys think? 2% a year? I think it's good, right? Even that you're going to see is like astronomically high. What's 2% of 800,000? So hold on. So I'm going to go 800. I'm going to do the math here. What's 2% of 800,000? 16,000, exactly. So it goes to 816 after year one. What's 2% of 816,000? It's like 16, 17, 18, about 18,000, right? Give or take. Right? Am I crazy here? Yeah? But call it 17 maybe, something like that. So now it's up at 834, right? What's 2% of that? It's 8,300 times 2, 8,350 times 2. So now we're talking 816, another 17,000, give or take. So now we're at 851, right? And then one more year goes by, so 8,500, that's 16, 17, another 17, so now we're at 868,000. So now what's happened is, your $800,000, right? It's gone up by 75K because you've paid down that principal in your mortgage. And your investment has gone up and is now worth $868,000. So you made 75 plus, call it easy math, you made 150 grand, okay? But the cool thing is you made 150 grand off of 80. You didn't make 150 grand off of 800. You didn't have to put $800,000 to make 150 grand. You only have to put 80. So you literally 2x'd your money inside of 5 years. You 2x'd your money inside of 5 years. That's insanity. And then you can pull, a certain chunk of this money and go buy another one. And you didn't have to sell the asset to do it. That's the super cool thing. That's what's really, really cool. So let's get at this cap rate thing so we can understand why this is so cool as well. So, see if I can come up with a fun hypothetical for us to go through. Yeah, you know what? We're going to use this one. Okay. So here's the hypothetical. Okay. So situation. We've got a duplex in Lachine. Okay. We know that each one of these. I want you guys to tell me what I should pay for this. Okay. It's a duplex in Lachine that can be converted to a triplex. Okay? It's all original. Okay? The total renovation costs are estimated at about $80,000 to do everything. Obviously, a lot of the stuff is going to stay, we're not going to remodel an entire kitchen. The total renovation costs are estimated at $80K. So, it's completely vacant. Okay? Rents. Once these renovations are done, the rents will go as follows. If we keep it as a duplex, okay, we're looking at $1,300, $1,350, and probably $1,000 for the basement. Excuse me, that's if we do triplex. If we keep it a duplex, then it would probably be $1,300 for the upper unit, and let's say, I don't know, $2,100 for the main unit. I forgot, obviously, taxes. That's the huge expense that you have to keep in mind. Taxes are $3K per year. Insurance, Probably 1.2K. Okay. Snow removal is not an issue. What other expenses would there be? Nope, they're going to handle all the hydro. They're handling all the hydro. We're not including any appliances. You can add in for certain things. I'll let you guys to be discretionary for maintenance and vacancy. But basically, we're looking at this is the situation. What is this property worth? Now, what is it worth versus what should I pay for it are different questions, right? The interesting thing is like, okay, when you're looking at a purchase for an investor, you have to also factor in kind of the carrying costs for the property. You have to factor in, how much time they want to be in on the deal, exit strategies for the deal, all that fun stuff, right? Remember, this is a training. Just feel free to ask questions. If something's not clear here, if you want me to elaborate on something, by all means, I'm here for it. So again, duplex in the machine can be converted to a triplex. The renovations are going to cost 80 grand. That's a minimum. It could be more, but I'd rather err on the side of caution.
The renovations, that would be just to add the other unit?
That would be to renovate the middle and upper to a rentable standard, and to finish the basement.
Okay. So it would be minus the 80K. Let's say if I did it, so I'm doing it if I divided by 5% because you want a 5% cap rate, right?
Well,
so
I don't know if I definitely want a better cap rate than 5% because I'm a greedy old bastard.
Okay.
But I think 5% is probably the answer to what is it worth when everything's done.
When everything's done.
Yeah, the 5% is what could I sell it for afterwards, and then we can do the backwards math on whether it's a flip, whether it's a hold. That's what it's worth after, or that's what it's worth now.
It's a duplex.
After.
So
Yep.
No. This is what you should be around paying for it if you want 5% cap rate.
If I want a 5% cap rate.
Exactly.
Okay.
And if it was a
Now let's say I want a 7.
A 7%.
Yeah.
Well, I did it for the triplex.
So
All y'all should be using Excel. This is wild.
I'm using the cap sheet.
There you go. Spoiler alert, we have a spreadsheet for this.
Yeah.
Come on, guys. I was wondering who's going to do it.
So, based off of just the straight numbers,
Yeah.
if I don't put vacancy and maintenance, we get ridiculous numbers.
Yeah.
But if I put actual 5% vacancy and maintenance numbers,
I would put, so here's the little sprinkle of knowledge I'll give to you guys right now. Remember what I said, nobody's living in there right now.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have to eat probably 6 months of vacancy. So whatever 6 months times the total of this is, you know what I mean? So factoring that in is very, very important too when you're analyzing a deal.
If you want a 7%,
Wow.
if you want a 7% cap.
This is what I should pay for it right now.
The vacancy.
Where would it
Yeah.
So
Yep.
it's in cap rate assets
Yep.
and investors. And then you just have to copy one.
So don't show anybody that. So Severo fucking nailed it. Severo absolutely nailed it.
Not using, just using his phone.
He's got it right here.
Is that you? Right. Did the
The
math.
computers I'm not good, but numbers I'm alright.
There you go.
So how do I copy this and so I can put it into
Duplicate.
Yeah, you can duplicate it, or you can just open it and just not save it. That's another idea too.
What would the like for what Severo did you calculate it? What are
Yes.
the steps to calculate what you're asking?
We'll walk as soon as everybody gets their answers. We'll have I'll have Severo kind of walk me through how he got to that number because I didn't get that exact number, but I came very, very close to it. So
100, and you wanted a 7 cap rate?
not necessarily. I just there's a difference between what it's going to be worth when it's done and what I should pay for it.
Okay.
Massive difference, 7 and 5%.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh my god.
5 sucks.
6. 6 is.
5 sucks.
But,
Especially with the strategy we want to use. 5 sucks.
Well, what happened with the Microsoft?
this
Yeah.
is my exact answer. Just copy it and pull it out.
I figured it's a great case study, right? I literally saw it, you know?
So I've got completed here at 5.
Yeah, I want John to go last.
Yeah.
Connor, are you done? You have something?
To be honest with you, I'm just trying to figure out how to duplicate
Yeah,
this
me
right
too.
now. Like, I don't know.
Just
Like-
open it and just don't save it. Or right click, say duplicate.
Yeah.
I just, I know, I just.
I can't because I'll go off camera.
Oh,
And the camera will go mess
thank
up.
you.
There you go. I mean, worst case scenario, no, I won't. I was like, worst case scenario, just mess up the sheet, but then I was like, no, everything's linked
Then just
together.
don't save it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's in Google Sheets, is that why?
No, it depends on how people open it, they open it.
Finally got it.
So, if they open it through G Suites, then so Sheets.
So am I doing it on as a triplex or am I doing it as a duplex?
I don't know, tell me. I'm the investor, you're the agent, tell me what I should pay for this thing.
In this market.
Just
Realistically,
So am I doing hydro? No, they're paying their own hydro.
They're paying their own hydro. I think the only expenses really to take into account would be taxes and insurance, although you may want to put in vacancy because I'll probably have 6 months where I'm receiving absolutely no rent because there's so much renovation to do.
So building maintenance could be renovate. That's renovation, right?
Yeah, so I'm interested to see where you guys put that, because I know where I put it. So
but your vacancy is only going to be like I would.
it's a temporary vacancy. You could extrapolate that over 5 years.
I would think of that more as like a renovation expense almost, like added to your budget.
You could, yeah, you could, absolutely, you could do that. Yeah. There's more than one way to skin the cat, ladies and gentlemen.
So you want a 7 or a 6%?
You tell me, buddy.
You said 7. So I'm gonna go
I would
7.
prefer 7 for sure, because I'm a greedy bastard. You got the number? Let's look at Connors.
No. This is a bad number.
Too late.
I just hit 7% and then it went to that.
Oh, well, you fucked up somewhere.
Yeah,
How did you fuck up?
I think I just forgot to.
Well, you didn't put the building cost down.
Yeah, and I haven't done any of that yet. But I had my initial guess in my head.
Maybe it's just not working properly. I don't know why that's working. Everything else seems to be going well. Why is this not working?
I had it just before I put in 7% as the cap rate. When I had 6 in, it was.
I hate that you're using numbers. You should have Excel, dude.
I don't have Excel.
Or just even
Should.
sheets. That's pretty.
Oh, that's why. Lols.
What was there? Did I put something wrong?
Yeah, you put 80% of the.
Oh yeah, no. That was supposed to be the 80K for renovations.
All right, Susie, let me check on yours.
I'm just trying to figure out how this thing works.
Nice.
Here we go.
I'm putting it, like, okay, so where do I?
Okay, so she put a base building cost. Okay, so I don't think you changed these.
I
things.
didn't change
I'm gonna
it, I
change
was
this for
trying
you
to
right
figure
now.
out, yeah.
Let's just put a base cost here. So she put a base cost of 500,000, down payment 10%. I don't know why this is not. It should be times that. There we go.
Oh, I was.
Oh.
So we just don't save it.
Yeah, yeah, that's easy like that. There we go. So now, when she plugged in 1,300 and 2,100, so you went with which one? You went with the keeping it
I
as
was
a
with-
duplex, right? Property taxes 3,000, insurance 1,200, 5% the building maintenance, 5% vacancy.
That was already there.
Yep, perfect. That's fine. And it's looking like. Oh yeah, so mortgage rate 3%. Got to change that. Bump that up to probably 6. And so it's saying that I should be buying this for $465,000 at if I want a 7% cap rate on this.
With the 80,000 improvements,
So-
and then,
The 80,000, where did you,
I didn't,
did you put it
I
anywhere?
know, that's where I'm wondering where to put that.
So, there's a couple places you can put it.
Okay,
You could put it in the down payment section. Oh, sorry, not the down payment, the shit. Did you have it open?
The what?
No.
No, I didn't.
the down payment section was it?
No, it wasn't there. It was closing costs. You can put it in the closing cost section because that's normally reserved for just notaries.
Okay,
So we can change this to 81,200. Boom. Closing costs. Now, so what'll happen is, what'll change is your return on investment if you do that. I would prefer something that changes the cap rate based on the amount of cash that I'm throwing into it. So what I would do is I would like to extrapolate that $80,000 over, let's say, 5 years and tag it on the building maintenance and see what that looks like. So what's 80,000 divided by 5 per year? Somebody calculate there.
Divided by 5. Wait,
And then divide that by 12.
divide that by 12.
That's
1,000,
13.
yeah, 1,333.
So that would be like a little less than that. It would change the building maintenance to like 25%, basically. And then 7% would go all the way down to 348. But we put it back to 5, it gets more realistic again. Six goes to about 400,000. So that's one way to do it. The problem is that's anticipating that that expense is going to be there forever, which it's not. It basically means that I in theory would have a crappy cap rate for a year, and then afterwards I'd be totally fine. I'd be back laughing, right?
okay.
So
Would you want to view that as like building cost? I guess add that into building cost.
you could totally do that too.
But then should you also put your 6-month hold period? Because there's $21,900 of holding cost lost of like lost revenue for the 6 months.
Yep.
And then 80,000 of the revenue.
So I would just call it 100, and just say the building cost is now $100,000 more.
So to get
But I
this
wouldn't
from
necessarily include. I would keep in the spreadsheet. I would keep the down payment static. Meaning, if we're looking at, if we're looking at putting the base at 500, I think that's totally fine. I would keep the down payment at probably 80,000, just because it's. I want to imagine that I'm buying the property for 400,000. Okay.
So you put 20% down.
Exactly.
And you're adding in your building cost. Okay, I see what you're doing.
Exactly. So the issue, of course, is it's like if it says let's say I'm putting in 7% and it's saying that I should pay $464 for it, because if we're not putting anything, if we're putting, let's say if we're doing a clean cap, we're doing 0 maintenance, 0 vacancy, and it's saying 7% is 522, I have to take 80 off of that, or 100 off of that, depending how hard I want to weigh it.
Yeah, because it's your rentals.
Right.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Oh, sorry, I said it.
So, John, where did you land?
So
If I was your investor and we found this off market, maybe I brought it to you, maybe a friend of yours brought it to me. What should I pay for this place?
Hold up, let me just fix this one thing here. 22, good. Wait a minute. 22. Cool. So I did a 20% down payment. I also did the what's it called? Just like a clear investor.
Yep.
And I also did the triplex version because I figured that 80,000, you make the extra unit, you're better off with that. The numbers based off of the duplex versus the triplex, there was a difference between the 5% cap that you did. Yeah, 7% cap.
Yeah, there's about a $300 difference in potential rent, right?
Yeah, exactly. And what that turned into at 7% cap rate was like I think you were at 460, and we were at 5 something, like 508 or something like that. So it will add up as the cap rate switches, so it's much better to do the triplex.
Cool. Okay. Triplex.
Yep.
The easy math on that, guys, is if you isolate that there's, let's call it super easy math. If you isolate that there's a $500 difference in renovating the unit, to see what it would cost to renovate the unit, all you'd have to do is go 500 divided by 0.06. If you wanted a 6% return on that money, right, extrapolated every year, you would need to get you need to spend $8,333 on that basement, right? If the difference is $1,000 per month, right, divided by 0.04, 0.05, whatever you want, 20,000. Right, so if I can renovate that basement, if to do the difference between finishing the basement and adding, let's say, a kitchen and bathroom is less than $10,000 to $15,000, I should 100% do it because it's worth it, and that's a one-time shot, and I'm getting that money forever. It's not just like it's a 1-year type of return on investment, 1-year payoff, right? Exactly. So yeah, I completely agree, John. Absolutely.
So I think my difficulty is looking at anything above a 5% cap rate is like
it's just magic.
Yeah. But in Saint-Jean-sur-Richelieu, you can find these properties.
Yeah.
They do exist. 6.5 caps, things like that are there. So I kind of wrap my head around that idea.
Yep.
And I was looking at if you could get this closer to a 6 cap. Maybe I'll move this to 6.5 and see what happens because I think 7 would be amazing, but
it's craziness. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Even 6.5 seems a little bit dreamy, but with the building maintenance and vacancy hovering around 5%, we'd be at 541 before our building, like our costs for renovations.
Okay, so we're talking 541 before,
and that's a 6.5
renos. So 541 minus.
We had 100. Yeah, we had 80 plus the 21 holding.
Yeah,
but
and there's ways of us getting creative to kind of save on that 20 holding, right? So minus 80, right? So we're looking at 460, right? Awesome. Easy.
And I think those are safe numbers, and there's still wiggle room because that 6.5% cap rate is a pretty good cap rate for the market.
Absolutely. Yeah. The way that we look at deals right now, we're looking for those higher cap rates because we are trying not to put a tremendous amount of money down. So in order to avoid that, we're looking for higher cap rates. And these ones are the only times you'll ever see them because they require so much renovation. Because it's not livable in its current state, they're likely to give you a better deal because they know it's going to take so much front-end sweat equity to be able to get it. Severa, how did you land on your number? Because you landed very close to this. You landed at like 463 or something.
Yeah, 462.
Okay, so how'd you get it?
So basically I did all the rents.
Yep.
Times 12.
Did you do it off of duplex or triplex?
I did triplex.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah, so I did all the rents times 12.
Yep.
And then I minus the expenses.
Yep.
And then I did that divided by 0.07 because you wanted a 7% cap rate.
Okay.
And then I minus the 21,000 of lost revenue
Yes.
for 6 months.
And then did you also minus the 80 for the cost, for the renovation cost?
Oh yes, I minus that first.
Oh, okay.
I minus that first.
Okay.
And then I minus the.
Perfect.
So
You guys did it the exact same way.
So you basically tallied up the annual, what the revenue was within a year.
Yep.
You took rid of all the expenses, then you took 7% of that.
Yeah, the 7% came up to 565, minus 80 came up to 485, and then minus the 21. So
And the 80 was the
So basically, what he did was he took net
21 was what?
and he divided it by
What was the 21?
the
Wait,
holding cost. Holding cost.
Oh yeah, the 6 month.
So the formula is pretty easy. Net divided by desired cap.
Wait,
And that
so
gives you the holding?
What? No. Net divided by the desired cap is going to give you the anticipated value of the property. So let me give you an example. Let's say you're analyzing a property on MLS and the net revenue is $34,500. Okay? So you divide that by what you want or your investor wants, which is probably, let's say, a 5.5, which is very reasonable, right? Divided by 0.055 equals, it's worth $627,000. It's that easy.
So that would be the estimated value or what it should be, what we should offer basically.
it depends, like, the desired cap is up to your investor.
Okay.
If he's saying, I'm not gonna buy anything that's under 5.5, then you have to put 5.5 there, right?
Yeah.
And then, of course, that doesn't account for what Severo and John did afterwards, which was minus needed renovations,
Okay.
right? Minus immediate vacancy. So net divided by desired cap is going to give you what the offer should be or what the value is or whatever. It's really, really honestly that simple. So when you're talking to somebody who owns a property and it's a revenue property, even if it's a single family dwelling, it's very, very easy. You say, awesome, that's great, John. Tell me a little bit more about the revenue that you're generating from this property. Oh, well, you know, the guy's paying $1,800 a month, okay? Cool. So 1,800 times 12 is?
3,600, that's 21,600.
Yeah, 21.6.
Perfect. So that's his gross, right? That's not net. So minus the taxes. He's paying $2,500 a year in taxes. Okay? And there's $1,000 a year in insurance. What's his net? Help me out.
It's
18.1.
18,100. Your investor wants a 5% cap rate. What does he pay?
Divided by.
And 1,800 is the rent.
And what was the cap that he wanted?
5.
362?
Yeah, 362.
362.
And 18 a month is the rent he's charging, right?
Exactly.
To the tenant.
Yep. The tenant is paying it, and we will verify it.
Yeah.
And the offer will say, "You got to show me the lease, baby. We got to make sure this is real."
Okay.
So you take the gross minus all the expenses. There might be more. This is a perfect example of what I would call a clean cap, because I didn't allocate for any vacancy or maintenance. In a single family dwelling, you got to allocate a little bit of vacancy, you know, because when it's very different. So imagine you have a triplex, okay? You got 3 units, 1, 2, 3. One guy FOs. It's not the end of the world. It's only 33% of your rent. You've got a single family dwelling, okay? It's just the one. This guy midnight moves on you, that's 100% of your rent gone. Gone. It's huge. So the risk factor is very, very different in a single family dwelling. It's worse, it's way, way worse. Why would people still gravitate towards the single family dwellings? Well, obviously if it's a great neighborhood and you know that neighborhood is skyrocketing, or you know it's being gentrified, or you know that a new mall or new this is coming in, obviously it's a good investment, right? The other thing typically is in a triplex, you'll get turnover almost every couple of years, whereas somebody might sign a 5-year lease on a house. Might be easier, right? Not that I recommend that, by the way. You should sign 1-year leases only so you can keep cranking them up. Because what's crazy, guys, is like, you don't realize, but imagine you have this triplex, right? And it's similar to the one we analyzed just before, right? So it's 1,300 here, 1,350 here, and 1,000 here, okay? Now, we're able to increase the rents how much?
Depends on what you do.
Depends on what you do, but you know, there's definitely arguments that can be made based on inflation, right? So this year is insane for inflation. Let's say you don't want to completely screw over your tenants, so you increase it by 5%. You're like, listen, inflation was almost 10, but I'll make you a deal. I'm only going to increase your rent by 5%. Okay? Now, this is what? This is 3,650 times 5% equals
182.5.
$183 extra per month. Times that by 12?
Oh shit.
2,196.
2,000 what?
2,196.
96. Take this number, please, divide it by 0.05 equals
4,392.
4,000
What?
No,
Divided by 0.5.
divided by 0.05. What is it?
2196 divided by 0.05. I
Oh, yeah,
got
sorry.
$43,000 is what your property just went up in value because you remembered to increase your fucking rents. So you see these absolute morons who have had their triplexes and quadruplexes and duplexes in fucking Saint Michel or wherever they own it, and they haven't increased the rent because they're nice guys. They pay me every month. Who cares, dude? You can add 50 grand of value to your property if you just increase the goddamn rents every year. If you don't increase the rents, your property does not go up in value. It goes up a little bit because other people around you might be increasing rents, and it's justifying if the new person comes in and boots them to be able to get more rent. But this is huge. You can never forget to increase the rents.
Also, it helps psychologically to train your tenants that every year the rent's going to go up. Because
Yes.
they're like, oh, 1 year the rent did go up. Maybe there's not, oh, it's a rent increase. It makes it harder.
Exactly.
So just train them. It's always
And
going up.
Yeah, exactly.
So the original number, the 362,000, that's the price that you would want to be paying for this kind of a property?
Correct.
And that's what you would agree with, okay.
Yep. The other way that I like to describe it to investors as well is there's 3 ways you make money on real estate. And we kind of went over them today already, but we're going to go through it again. What are those 3 ways? Number one's pretty straightforward. It's called cash on cash. So it means all of your expenses, including your mortgage, are superseded by the rents. So maybe you're making $100 a month there or something like that. Maybe 500, 100 to 500 bucks a month, depending on how much money you put down in the property, depending on how much you paid it down, et cetera, who knows. But there's cash on cash. What are the other 2 ways you make money in real estate? Come on, guys.
Depreciation.
Appreciation, absolutely.
Oh,
Yep.
oh.
So this can happen in a single family dwelling just by neighborhoods going up in value. Could happen just because they're not making any more land, right? Or in the case that we just looked at, it could happen by increasing the rents. You're getting appreciation on the property. What's the 3rd way?
Principal pay down.
That's right, principal pay down. Somebody explain this to me that's not John.
Well, somebody's paying for your mortgage.
That's right. You can go on the mortgage table right now on TD, right now on RBC, right now on any bank, and every single year you will see your mortgage amount go down every single year. So usually what we do to extrapolate this and to analyze it is you say, okay, what happens in 5 years? What's my mortgage amount? Let's say you started with a $500,000 mortgage because you put, I don't know, 100 grand down on a $600,000 property, okay? 500,000. You're probably paying it down like $9,000 to $10,000 per year on a $500,000 mortgage, give or take. Yeah, and then interest rate's a little higher now, so maybe less, maybe 8 or 9, right? But then you times that by 5, and that's how much principal pay down happened. But the best thing is the majority of it is not paid by you. This is why home ownership is so important, because it's like you got to pay to live somewhere, and half of your mortgage payments every single month are paying down a loan. They're paying down principal. And the further you get into your loan, obviously, you start paying down more principal. That's the trap they try and get you in. So you think like, oh, I can't wait to pay down my mortgage. So fuck that noise. You don't want to do that. That's poor people shit. We don't do that. So the idea is the principal gets paid down, the appreciation happens. So you start here, okay? This is value right here, okay? And loan. They're both very close to one another, okay? Value goes up, loan goes down. This gap right here, that's called equity. That gap's called equity. And equity is how rich people become significantly more rich year after year.
What is cash on cash referencing?
So it's just, it's your gross income minus all expenses, also minus your mortgage.
Okay.
Are you cash flow positive?
Okay.
If you are, that's cash on cash. But the good news is, and also kind of the bad news, is that because we're in such a stable market here, you're going to be hard pressed to find cap rates that we discussed here today. Most cap rates are going to be between 4 and 5. Why is that? Why are people okay with not making any cash every single month? It's because they know that if they're minus $500 a month on a property, A, they might have good enough jobs where that doesn't hurt at all, right? And then they know that this and this is so big that they don't give a shit because they know every 5 years they're going to refinance and make 100 grand. And then they're like, no, well, my cash on cash is really closer to 20K a year, isn't it?
Well, especially if you didn't have any tenants and you were just outright paying the mortgage on your own and in your own, and it was minusing from your expenses.
Yeah.
It would still be not an issue.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, this is kind of the cheat code, guys. And
To give an example, sorry, just
Yeah, go ahead,
about the one that you showed, if you could look in the spreadsheet, and it'll tell you what they'll make based off of their principal principal pay downs and their appreciation.
I know the appreciation. It almost.
And then you could just see if
I always feel so stupid putting more than 1% there.
Yeah,
Because the
Because it goes
second you put
ridiculous.
2 or 3, it gets ridiculous.
yeah,
If you're anticipating like a 5% increase on a property, it never makes sense to flip a property if you put that number in.
Yeah.
It literally never makes any sense. But it's tough to realize where you see like real tangible increases like that. It's a little bit harder to see,
Well,
year
that-
over year.
that deal at negative $398, so you're paying $398 to hold that
Yep.
a month.
every month, you're walking away at the end of each year with $15,000.
Just in equity.
Yeah, that's it's $1,300 a month, so you're paying you're $398 and you're up $1,000.
Yeah.
Would you pay $398 to get $1,000?
Of course.
Yes.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Shit, I had a place I was going with this.
Sorry.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
Derailed.
It's all good. It's all good, man. All of this discussion is really cool. So here's, so this is kind of the cheat code, guys. This is, owning property is 100% the cheat code. There are some people that'll tell you that you shouldn't own your own property, that you should rent your own property and own other properties and rent those out. But I don't agree with that, and it's because I really like the cheat code that I'm about to share with you guys. Don't judge me. Don't come after me. So it's all good to start with a revenue property. I love that idea. I really love that idea. If I wasn't such a family man, I would have definitely started with a revenue property. Oh wait, no, I kind of did. The triplex on machine first. I did start with a revenue property. Go me. Okay, so you start with a revenue property. Okay. Okay. Ideally, you try and buy 2 things at once. I'm not going to get into that. You know where I'm going with that. So you start with a revenue property. You also get a house, condo, whatever, for yourself. Okay? Why is this combination so important? Because now what happens is you have a real estate portfolio. And now your tax returns are going to be a little bit different. You have to send tax returns based on everything that you own. So you're saying, this is my revenue property, this is my primary residence, these are the expenses that I accrued for each of them. You might be able to declare a loss on the revenue property by writing off expenses that may or may not have occurred on your primary residence. You guys following me? I'm not going to go into any more detail about that, but you guys following me? This is a huge hack. This is a huge, huge hack. Now, best of all, fast forward 5 years, okay? You bought the revenue property for $500K, okay? You bought the house for yourself, condo for yourself, whatever. Let's say you bought a tiny little place, right? You bought it for $350K. Okay? Nope, I want to use easy math. You bought it for $500 too. Okay? So in 5 years, your $1 million has probably close to $20K per year. Your $1 million whatever has been paid down by $100K and has gone up by, gee whiz, 2 would be 20, yeah, has gone up by another $100K. So there's $200K that you just made, but you only put 100, which is insane. So now, your portfolio has gone up by $200,000, and the good news is the bank wants to loan you more money because you've been making your payments every month. So you say, what's up, bank? My shit's up $200K. They're like, ooh, that's great, but we can only give you 80% of that. You're like, cool. No, let's say you're speaking to a bank, and they're a bunch of jerks. They're saying, you know what? Sorry, I can only give you 70% of that. You're like, cool, no worries. What's 70% of that? 140 grand. 140K. You take that 140K, and you buy another one. And every 5 years minimum, you repeat that process. And guess what? That's not even your money. That money was paid by your tenants. That money was paid by appreciation. That was paid by other people increasing their rents, you increasing your rents. It's not you that did it. It's not even money that you earned, quote unquote. It's just money making money, which is awesome. So imagine, this is what I was explaining to my buddy. I was like, Dude, you're 30 years old right now, okay? You're 30, you buy one property. 35, you're at 2 properties. 40, you're at 3 properties. 45, you're probably at 5 by now, because now it's like you can refinance all 3 to get 2, right? By 50, you likely have between 7 and 8 properties, all worth approximately, if we factor in all the depreciation that's happened over, almost 20 years? It's probably worth $3 to $4 million. Because he had the audacity to tell me that he's never going to be a millionaire. I said, well, it's your choice, bud. You buy a property now, by the time you're 50, you'll be a multi-millionaire. If you don't now, I've got no sympathy for you.
If appreciation stays at 9.1, sorry, if, what's it called? Inflation stays at 9.1%, that'll probably be 7 to 8 million actually.
Yeah.
It's probably being admitted.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And the thing is like, God forbid you guys have savings sitting in a bank account right now. Should we talk about that for a second? Yeah, we got 3 minutes. Let's talk about it.
I love that. God forbid.
Yo, God forbid you have savings right now. Buy a Rolex. No.
Take my money, invest it for me. Like,
No, so I suck at investing money. I won't invest other people's money unless
no, but I can buy it. Show me like I don't know,
unless
like
you want to buy a property, right?
Yeah,
So
well, that's
yeah.
what I'm saying. I don't like. I can't buy property because I haven't had a job for 2 years. Let's say steady.
Mm-hmm. Hey man, there's
That's
always
where-
ways. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
You shut up. No, there's always ways of figuring something out. You know what I mean? There's ways of partnering with people and then having them have some kind of like, you buy a holding company, let's say, and you have a buyout clause that you're basically just using them for their approval. There's like a bunch of ways of doing this. There's never a way that if you have some money that you can't buy a property, especially a property, and this is why it's so important to buy a property that has rental income. Because then, especially if the rental income's been kind of divided between many units. If the more units you can do, the less risk it is to be able to handle it. Because if one person leaves, it's only 33% of the rent. You can handle another expense of let's say $600-700 a month. It's not the end of the world, But that's why it also is not a bad idea when you're starting out to buy with somebody. Partner with somebody that also has some money, and maybe they have a steady job. Maybe you put a little bit more down than them, but like get creative, guys. This is the time to do it. Because if you've got money sitting in your account, what's inflation?
9.1.
9.1.
But that's exactly what I did while I was able to secure my home so young, was because my father was willing to put his name on it, and I just covered the payments, and it was just the bank didn't want to loan me the money.
Of course.
And me and my dad, oh yeah, here you go. And
Yeah.
I was still capable of making the payments, I just needed that.
Absolutely.
That first step.
Yeah, there's co-signing, there's partnering, there's different banks will offer different programs based on deposits into your bank, shit like that. Yeah.
Can you do like if you're with 2 people, can one of you cover the down payment, the other one cover the mortgage?
Sure. Yeah. Why
You
not?
have to work out the agreement between the parties, but yeah.
Exactly. Like, in my situation, I basically just needed my dad to tell the bank he was involved. I was capable of.
Yeah,
but I didn't have declared income for the last few years at
Right.
the time, so it was like they didn't want to lend me.
Yeah. So in this case, the co-sign was probably not what you guys did. You probably bought it together.
Yeah, we bought it together.
Yeah.
And I covered all the payments.
Yeah, because when you buy something together and some person has absolutely no income whatsoever, then you can't do a co-sign. What it would be is you're signing together and you're equally and severably responsible, which means if, let's say, you default on your payments, that's going right to your dad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you default on your payments with your partner, it's going to your partner. Both of you are responsible equally and severably for the property and its debts.
Okay.
So yeah, invest your money.
Will do.
Do not let it sit in the bank and wither away. Very, very important. Saving is great in theory, but when inflation kicks in, it's a real bitch. Cool guys, thanks for coming. Appreciate you. What's up, Johnny?
I hit on something yesterday that I thought was particularly interesting, and I thought I'd share it now because we were talking about something.
Yeah.
In the 1970s, something interesting happened. Inflation hit 9.1%.
Yep.
There was a recession that happened.
Mhm.
Gas prices went through the roof. And the factors that affected the recession were not caused by anything related to the housing market. Does it sound similar?
Yeah.
Things tend to repeat themselves. History tends to repeat themselves. Everybody's trying to make sense of what's happening right now. A lot of analysts and specialists now are looking at that time in history to see where things are going to go. So if you want to research something about what we're going through right now, it could be interesting to look at that.
What was the
1970s.
Cool. I'm gonna cut the stream, guys. Thanks so much, everybody, for coming. Appreciate you all.